It was supposed to be a regular Tuesday. I had just stepped out of my office building in downtown Chicago, wrapped in a tailored coat, mentally planning my dinner and an evening call with a European investor. My world was orderly, scheduled, precise, just the way I liked it. And then I saw her. Standing across the street, near the park bench no one ever used in winter, was a young woman, mid-20s, maybe. She was holding two infants, one in each arm, barely swaddled in mismatched blankets. Her lips were blue from the cold, her face pale, and her eyes, those eyes stopped me in my tracks. They weren't pleading. They weren't begging. They were empty. Like she had already accepted that no help was coming. The traffic moved. Horns blared. And still she stood there, unmoving, like a ghost that no one else could see. I don't know what came over me. I've walked past 100 stories like hers before, people lost in the system, in the weather, in life. But something about her made me cross the street. Maybe it was the way her body swayed from exhaustion but refused to collapse. Maybe it was the way she clutched the babies closer every time the wind howled. Or maybe it was the fact that she looked like someone I used to know. Someone I failed. "Are you all right?" I asked, careful not to startle her. She blinked, as if remembering she was visible. "I just need somewhere warm," she whispered. "Just for the night. For them. Not for herself. For them." I glanced at the babies. They were quiet, too quiet. Their cheeks flushed with cold, their breath shallow. And that's when I made a decision that would change my entire life. "Come with me," I said. She hesitated. "Why?" "Because I can't walk away." Her name, I learned later, was Raya. And the babies, her babies, were named Noel and Nina. But none of that mattered in the moment. What mattered was getting them out of the cold before it killed them. So I took them home. To my penthouse. To the place I had spent years building to keep myself isolated, powerful, and untouchable. That night, I let in chaos. And it came holding two babies, wrapped in sorrow, and carrying a secret I never saw coming. The moment we stepped inside my penthouse, the warmth hit her like a wave. Raya froze in the entryway, blinking under the soft lighting like it was too bright, too safe, too surreal. She clutched both babies tighter, as if afraid someone would snatch them the moment she let her guard down. I helped her off with her coat, but she flinched. Not visibly. Just a slight tension in her shoulders, like her muscles were used to anticipating pain. "I can set up a guest room," I said quietly. "There's a fireplace and heated floors. The babies will be comfortable." She didn't answer right away. She just looked around like a deer caught between hunger and the memory of the last trap it fell into. I wasn't used to that. I was a man people feared or respected, sometimes both. I wasn't used to someone entering my home with the look of someone who expected to be punished just for being let in. "Do you want anything to eat?" I asked. "Something warm." Her lips parted, but no sound came. Then she whispered, "Not for me. Just for them." Again. Always for them. I nodded and went to the kitchen. I didn't have baby formula, of course I didn't. But my housekeeper had stocked emergency supplies when I'd told her guests might be coming this winter. I didn't think I'd be using it for two infants who looked like they hadn't had a proper meal in days. When I came back, Raya was still standing. Still holding both babies. Like if she sat down, something terrible would happen. "You can rest," I said. "I promise, nothing's going to hurt you here." Her eyes filled with tears, but none fell. She sat down slowly, mechanically. Like someone who hadn't sat comfortably in years. I handed her the warm bottles. The babies latched on with a hunger that twisted something deep in my gut. "Thank you," she said, her voice cracking for the first time. "You don't have to thank me." "I do," she said, eyes on the babies. "You don't know what I left behind to get here." That sentence hung in the air like a warning. I didn't ask questions that night. I didn't press her for her story. Something about the way she sat there, trembling, feeding her children, afraid of the floor she was sitting on, told me that she'd already lived through more than most people could bear. So I let silence speak for us. I gave her time, space, and heat. And in return, she gave me a glimpse into a kind of strength I had never seen up close. Not in boardrooms. Not in billion-dollar deals. But in a broken woman cradling life in both arms, refusing to let despair take them. That night, I slept on the couch outside her room. Not because I had to, but because I didn't want her to feel alone again, not even for a second. The next morning, I found her in the kitchen. She'd made tea, not coffee, not anything strong, just a simple chamomile from the back of my pantry. She looked like a ghost in oversized flannel pajamas my housekeeper had left out for her. Micah and Nina were asleep in the nursery, the warmth already putting color back in their tiny cheeks. "Did you sleep?" I asked gently. She nodded, but didn't meet my eyes. I dreamed of cold floors. I didn't know what to say to that. We sat in silence, steam rising between us, until she broke it with a whisper. I used to live in a house with 12 locks on the front door. I waited. She didn't explain, just stared into her tea like it held the answers to every scar on her body. I wasn't allowed to leave, she continued, voice thin. He said if I did, someone would take the babies. That no one would believe I was their mother. My stomach turned. I asked, though I already hated him with every fiber of my being. She nodded. He wasn't their real father. Just the man who took me in when I had nowhere else to go. Said I owed him for saving me. And you stayed. I thought I didn't have a choice. I leaned forward, careful. You do now? She looked at me, really looked. Her eyes were hollow, not because they were empty, but because they were too full of things she'd never had space to release. Why are you helping me? She asked. I was quiet for a moment. Then I told her the truth. Because once, someone helped me when I didn't deserve it. And I never repaid that debt. Her eyes shimmered. Maybe you just did. We didn't speak again that morning. But something shifted. She started to walk around the apartment more freely. She learned where things were. She even laughed. Once, when Nina sneezed with such drama it startled her brother into crying. But beneath that softness, I could feel it. She was still guarding something. A truth she hadn't told me yet. Something about the babies. About herself. About the man she ran from. And deep down I knew. Whatever it was, it wouldn't stay hidden forever. A few days later, I insisted Raya take the twins for a checkup. They were doing better, their skin warmer, their cries fuller, but I wanted a doctor's confirmation. So I cleared my afternoon, booked the best pediatrician in the city, and personally drove us across town. She was quiet the whole ride. Not anxious, just watchful. Like every stoplight might bring someone she was hoping never to see again. When we got to the clinic, she hesitated at the door. They'll ask questions, she murmured. Paperwork. Names. You don't have to tell them anything you're not ready to share, I reassured her. You're their mother. That's what matters. She didn't answer, just held both babies a little tighter and stepped inside. The receptionist was kind. The nurse even kinder. But then came the form. Name of the mother? The nurse asked casually. Raya opened her mouth and froze. I could see her panic rise. Her fingers trembled. The pen fell from her hand. She started. I'll fill it out, I said quickly, stepping in. They're staying with me temporarily. Emergency guardianship. The nurse blinked but nodded, taking the clipboard without pressing. Raya gave me a look I couldn't read. Not gratitude. Not fear. Guilt, maybe? The doctor checked the twins. They were slightly underweight, but otherwise healthy. No signs of abuse or trauma. Just mild developmental delays from prolonged stress. She's been taking good care of them, the doctor said when Raya stepped out briefly. Whatever their situation was before, they're lucky she got them out. I nodded but felt a knot form in my chest. Because the next moment proved just how fragile that safety really was. As we walked back to the car, a woman passing on the sidewalk did a double take. She stopped in her tracks and stared directly at Raya. Jenna, the woman gasped. Raya flinched like she'd been slapped. I don't, she started, but the woman moved closer. Oh my God, it is you. You disappeared. They said you ran off in the middle of the night with someone else's kids. What happened? Where have you been? I stepped between them immediately, shielding Raya with my body. That's enough, I said firmly. The woman backed off, confused and apologetic, but the damage was done. Raya was shaking. She wouldn't speak the entire ride home. And when we got back to the penthouse, she locked herself in the guest room. I didn't knock. I didn't demand answers. But my mind wouldn't stop racing. Jenna? Not Raya. Someone else's kids? The lie wasn't just unraveling. It was exploding. And I wasn't sure if I was the rescuer anymore, or the fool who let a stranger into his life with no idea what danger she brought with her. The guest room doors stayed shut for hours. I didn't push, but I didn't leave either. I sat outside in the hallway, back against the wall, staring at the hardwood floor like it could explain why I'd opened my life to a stranger with no past and too many shadows. Then, just after midnight, the door creaked open. She stood there barefoot, wrapped in the same robe my housekeeper had left, her eyes red but steady. You deserve the truth, she whispered. I stood, heart heavy, unsure what I was about to hear. My name isn't Raya, she said. It's Jenna. Jenna Collins. I said nothing. Just waited. I used to work for a man named Von Mercer. Wealthy. Powerful. Obsessive. I was his assistant and later, his prisoner. The words came slow at first, then faster, sharper, like breaking a dam. He kept me in his estate under the pretense of protection. But it wasn't that. It was control, surveillance, threats. When I got pregnant, I didn't even know if the twins were his. I flinched. Jenna looked away. But here's the truth. They're not. I have been seeing someone, a kind man named Eli, a security guard on the estate. He was the father. But when Vaughn found out, Eli disappeared. No explanations. No body. Just gone. My chest tightened. I knew I had to leave, she continued. But Vaughn had everyone convinced the twins were his. His property. His future heirs. If I ran, he said he'd track me. Kill me. Or worse, take the children and raise them like him. Her voice cracked. So I waited. I played along. For months. Until one night, during a blizzard, I drugged the staff's drinks, took the twins, and ran. I had no plan. Just instinct. Just fear. I've been hiding ever since. Silence. She looked at me with tear-glazed eyes. That woman today, she was a family friend of Vaughn's. If she recognized me, he knows by now. I felt my blood run cold. You brought him here? I said, not out of accusation, but from the sheer terror that I had unknowingly opened my home to a war I wasn't prepared to fight. I'm sorry, Jenna said. I should have told you. But you were kind, and I was so tired of being afraid. I stepped forward. Are you still afraid now? She didn't answer, but her eyes said yes. And so I did something I hadn't done in years, something I had almost forgotten how to do. I placed my hand gently over hers and said, then let me be afraid with you. And I'll make sure no one ever touches you or those babies again. Because in that moment, I realized. This wasn't about pity. This was about protection. And I was ready to fight. By morning, my penthouse didn't feel like a sanctuary anymore. It felt like a glass box, beautiful, but exposed. Vulnerable. Jenna barely slept. I didn't sleep at all. I called my lawyer, my security team, even a private investigator I'd used once during a corporate espionage case. Within an hour, we had eyes scanning surveillance footage from the clinic, city traffic cams, and social media mentions of Vaughn Mercer's circle. If he was looking for her, I wanted to know before he got too close. But by noon, I got the first hit. A black SUV had been spotted idling near my building late the previous night. Tinted windows. No plates. At first, it could have been coincidence. But then one of my security team texted, same SUV seen outside the pediatric clinic 24 hours ago. Same time you were inside. He was already watching us. I turned to Jenna, who was feeding Micah in the living room, and said, he's here. Her face paled. But how? The woman. She might have called someone. Or he's been tracking you longer than we thought. She shook her head, trembling. I used cash. Changed phones. Changed names. How could he? You lived in his house for years. You said he controlled everything. He might have had something implanted in your belongings. Even the baby's toys. Jenna's hands started to shake. I can't do this again, she whispered. I can't run anymore. You don't have to. I pulled out a set of documents from my desk. I had my legal team draft a temporary emergency protection order. You'll be under my guardianship until we get something permanent in place. And if he tries to take you to court, he won't, she cut in. He doesn't do court. He does threats. Deals. Blackmail. Then let him try, I said. Because he just messed with the wrong person. I made calls all afternoon to former business partners, media contacts, even a high-profile journalist who owed me a favor. I knew how to ruin a reputation if needed. I'd done it before. But it wasn't enough. Because that evening, as I was reviewing security footage in my office, my doorman called. There's a man downstairs, he said. Claims he knows your guest. Refuses to leave. Says his name is Vaughn Mercer. Tom stopped. Jenna was in the nursery, rocking the twins. She hadn't heard. I didn't hesitate. I ordered the building locked down, security posted on every floor. No one in, no one out. Then I stood in front of the security monitor and watched him. Vaughn. Slick black coat. Expensive shoes. Calm as ice. Like he wasn't breaking a law by trespassing, like he owned the place. And when he looked up at the camera, he smiled. A slow, deliberate smile. I'd seen predators before, but I had never seen evil wear such a perfect suit. I didn't send my security team. I went down myself. Something in me, pride, instinct, or just fury, needed to look this man in the eye. To face the shadow that had been haunting Jenna's every breath. The elevator ride was silent, except for the rush of blood pounding in my ears. When the doors opened, Vaughn Mercer was already waiting. He didn't flinch, didn't move, just smirked. "Ah," he said, "Elias Ford, the generous billionaire with a bleeding heart." I froze. He knew my name. He didn't just stumble upon Jenna, he had planned this. "You've done your homework," I said coldly. He tilted his head. "It pays to study your competition, especially when they suddenly become foster fathers to stolen children." I stepped closer. "They're not stolen. They were escaping you." His smile didn't waver. "So dramatic." Jenna always had a flair for victimhood. "Did she tell you about the drugs? The unstable behavior? The night she disappeared for hours while the twins cried alone?" I didn't answer. I'd seen the bruises she tried to hide, the way she flinched at loud footsteps. "I know abuse when I see it," I said through gritted teeth. He laughed softly. "You know business, Elias. Not women. That's your weakness. Always rescuing things you don't understand." I clenched my fists. "You're not here for a reunion. What do you want?" His voice dropped, quiet and venomous. "The children are mine. I have blood claims. I have documents. I have influence you couldn't begin to comprehend." "They're not yours," I snapped. "You're not even their father. You were a parasite who latched onto a scared girl because no one was watching." Vaughn's eyes narrowed. "Careful, Elias. You don't want to start a war you can't finish." I leaned in, lowering my voice. "I already did. And I'll burn your empire to the ground before I let you touch them." We stood inches apart. Two men with power, but only one with something worth protecting. "You know," he whispered, "this is déjà vu. I once watched your father stand in front of a camera and say those exact words. He was brave too, right up until I took everything from him." My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" He stepped back, calm again. "Ask your mother what happened to the Ford shipping contracts in '97. Ask her who ruined your father's life. You weren't the first Ford, the first crippled. But I promise, you'll be the most satisfying." Then he turned and walked out, leaving behind the kind of silence that only comes after a bomb drops. I stood there, stunned, haunted by a name I hadn't heard in years. He didn't just want the twins. He wanted revenge. And suddenly, this wasn't just about Jenna anymore. It was about my family, my past, and a reckoning long overdue. After Vaughn left, I didn't go back upstairs right away. I stood in the lobby, his words echoing in my head like gunshots. About my father. About the past. About a war I never knew I was born into. But then I remembered what mattered now, Jenna. Micah. Isla. My family. I took the elevator back up and found Jenna sitting in the nursery, rocking the twins with tears running down her cheeks. "He was here, wasn't he?" she whispered. I nodded. Her arms tightened around the babies. "What did he say?" I knelt beside her. "He threatened everything. Me, you, the twins. But he also made a mistake. He admitted too much." I showed her the security footage. I let my lawyer hear the conversation. Within hours, we had filed a restraining order, submitted a report to the police, and contacted two national news outlets who were more than eager to expose a billionaire with a history of coercion and missing employees. But Vaughn wasn't done. He returned one last time, not to the penthouse, but to the court. He filed an emergency motion claiming parental rights over the twins. The courtroom was tense. Every second felt like a year. Vaughn's lawyers painted him as a concerned father. Ours painted him as a controlling narcissist with a trail of abuse allegations buried under money and silence. Then Jenna spoke. She stood on shaky legs, holding a photo of Eli, the real father, and recounted everything: the captivity, the threats, the escape, the pain. Her voice didn't tremble. Not once. When the judge asked me if I had anything to add, I stood and said only this: "I may not be their biological father, but I'd die for them." Can he say the same? Vaughn's silence said everything. 2 days later, the judge ruled in our favor. Full guardianship to Jenna. No contact from Vaughn, ever again. We left the courthouse in a daze. And as the sun broke through the clouds outside, Jenna turned to me. "I don't know how to repay you," she said. "You don't have to," I replied. "But if you'll let me, I'd like to be more than a rescuer. I want to be their father. And yours, if you'll have me." She smiled, for the first time in weeks, and whispered, "We already do." That was the beginning, not of a perfect life, but a real one. A life built not on lies or power or control, but on trust, survival, and the strange miracle of two broken souls choosing to heal together.